there, and welcome to the Creatives Get Real podcast. I'm Roben-Marie.
And I'm Sandi Keene, and these are real conversations about the creative life. Hey, Robin.
Hey there.
How you doing?
I'm doing okay today.
Good. And we have lots of new people who have joined us, and maybe they haven't gone all the way back into our reserves and heard some of those first podcasts, which I think were really important topics that we felt strongly about. And we started with those right out the gate. And there's one that is near and dear to both of our hearts. And I know as a coach, and I'm sure you running Makers Tech, this comes up, and that is the 24-hour rule. And I know that I just used it in the last 24 hours where I was actually typing an email going, dude, what are you doing? It is not the 24-minute rule. Step away.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And I had to remind myself and step away. And it's like,
and being able to say no and do so gracefully, and being able to not apologize and be firm and comfortable with the decision that you make, because we're all faced with that, not just from our creative businesses but in our personal lives as well. We face this constantly, probably even more so in our personal lives, where we're being pulled in different directions and we're being asked to do things. And it's very easy to be a people pleaser and want to say yes to things. I know it's really hard I get myself in this. I got myself into this not too long ago. And I was like, how did I do this again? I know the rule, but I just wanted to be helpful and I wanted to say yes. And the next thing I know, it was way bigger than I thought it was going to be. And that's just sometimes what happens.
Right.
So we think this episode is super important and enough that we've pulled it out of the archives and we are sharing it again. And you know what? Even if you've heard it, I think it's important for you to listen to it again, because that was like episode 12 or something. I mean, we're in like 40s now. So it's been a while.
It has.
Yeah.
Listen again. It's one, I actually listen to our podcasts. And it is one that I listen to often. Like I'll go back to it and say, okay, I need a refresher, because even myself, I will get into those. Well, I have an answer for you.
Exactly.
It's like, no.
That's right.
Back away.
Yeah, we do need to be reminded. And so we hope that you enjoy it. And if you've already listened, listen again. And you may hear something and pick up something that you maybe didn't the first time around, or you just need that reminder.
Yes.
Yeah.
So enjoy.
All right. Let's get started.
So today's topic is something that I think is really, really important, and that a lot of women struggle with. It's about how to say no gracefully, yet effectively.
I like it. I need to hear this podcast.
Who doesn't? We all do.
Yes.
Saying no can be hard.
Yeah, it can be, because we want to not miss out. Yeah. We don't want to feel guilty because we're not saying yes to everything.
Right.
And I think we come at it from so many different perspectives, whether we're moms or we're not moms, or whether, we're married or whatever it looks like. It can be hard to not say yes to everything.
Yeah. That whole, I will admit that I was definitely a people pleaser when I was a younger woman, and now I'm an older woman and I don't care.
Oh my goodness.
But it is still, I think, for a lot of people, and I'm going to say women, but a lot of women, yes is our default, when maybe it should be no.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so let's talk about saying no gracefully, but effectively, so that we don't leave any doubt about what we just said.
Yeah, I think what just pops into my head at the moment is the idea that you can say no and you can say it gracefully, but we always somehow have to give a reason or say, explain it away. And that's exhausting. And it needs to be, let your no be no and your yes be yes. So it's like, okay, this is the reason, and you don't have to feel like you have to give this long reason and excuse or justify why you're not saying yes.
Right.
Because I know I'm there a lot where I feel like I have to give a reason, or then I feel guilty because I didn't say yes.
Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes when we're not comfortable with no, we can say no in a way that sounds a lot like yes. And we leave people confused. Like, did she say yes or did she say no? I'm not sure. So if you can say no in a way that, I love the word gracefully, but the door is closed. They know she said no.
Exactly.
And I needn't ask again.
But doesn't, by us saying it that way, though, I think we sometimes, it helps us feel better about not saying no in a way that ends it.
Right.
But then that just causes more confusion and leaves you feeling like, great, I didn't end that, and it's going to happen again. It's going to come back up again, and I'm going to have to deal with it. I didn't deal with it.
Exactly. And that's what it is when you just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about what saying no does for us. Like, saying no creates space. Now, this is one of my favorite things that I like to say to myself.
Yeah.
You know, I like to create that space for something else. And when you say yes to something, you have given up time, effort, creativity, all of these things. And, you know, if you think of it as a bowl, this beautiful bowl that you have of all of your things, your time, your energy, and you just take your paw, scrunch it in there, and you just took out a whole bunch of it.
Yep.
And now there's very little left. And is that really what you want to spend your time and effort on?
Yeah, because it's like you said, if you have filled it with something, there isn't room for that other thing or whatever that is. You've filled it up.
Right.
Or you've really your bowl's overflowing, and then you definitely can't put any more in it.
Right, because you've overcommitted.
Exactly.
Which we both know a lot about. Because it's so easy to do.
It is. Yeah.
So for you, what do you do to say no gracefully and effectively?
And I've had to learn this the hard way over the years. It's been difficult. You've helped me a lot in that department. One of my favorite things that you always say, and I say a lot, and I consider this all the time, is just because I can doesn't mean I should. And that means I need to give myself time to think about it. So what I do now, and it has really worked for me, and it just really has worked. It's amazing how sometimes the simplest thing can make such a difference. Is if I'm asked whether, let's say, we'll use as an example, someone contacts me and says, hey, I'm doing this year-long workshop and looking for artists and would love to have you be a part of it. You know, would you consider it or whatever? I generally will always, let them know that I'll think about it. And that way I give myself some time to reflect on all the pros and cons and decide. Even if I really am going to say no, I want to think about it. Because I feel like I want to give myself the opportunity to make sure that it isn't a good opportunity for me to do it, or give them the respect of saying I'll consider it.
Right.
And then what I like to do is say, if I said yes right now, how would I feel? Knowing what is going to be on me, what the deadlines are, when it's coming up. And so often those opportunities come with a very short deadline window. We'd love to have you on board, and we need XYZ and, ABC in 2 weeks. And you're just like, what? I mean, so you kind of already have a feeling that you know. But how do I feel in that moment? Do I feel like a weight has now been on me? Do I feel anxious? Do I feel sick to my stomach, which I have felt before, going, why did I just commit to that and say yes to that? So I think I like to do those two things, is say I will think about it, because in that way you've got plenty of time. It's easy in the moment to say yes to something because you might feel pressure, or especially if it's face-to-face, that's even harder.
Right.
But that's what I like to do, and that has helped me a lot.
That is such good advice. I think that the 24-hour rule is so important in two areas that I try to always apply the 24-hour rule. Is one, when you're trying to answer someone who has just decimated you by email.
Good point.
Never, ever answer that email immediately because your first response is to decimate them back.
Defend yourself. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's not the way to do it. So 24 hours. Mm-hmm. And also when an opportunity comes up from, like, if you ask me to do something or if a friend asks me to do something, I can make that decision easily and I don't need 24 hours.
Right.
But if it's a stranger or a company or an opportunity, I really think 24 hours is a good rule always.
Well, and that way you can look at your schedule. You can consider all of the commitments that you already have, not just your business or your art commitments, but your personal commitments.
Yeah.
I think it's easy sometimes to put those on the side and go, oh, this is too good to pass up. But it's like you got to consider what you're sacrificing and what you're giving up at the same time from all aspects. And it's easier to do that when you can look over everything, your whole schedule, and consider. And we've talked about this. It always takes you longer to do things than you think it's going to take.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So if you think I can whip this out in a week, you better add in, 3 more weeks or whatever.
Right.
Really consider that, because it might seem like it's not that big of a deal, but you need to consider that it could take you a lot longer to do it.
Right. Especially, if you have to order supplies.
That's right.
Or product, or you're having to deal with someone else's time frame. You're getting back and forth with people.
That's right.
Everything takes longer than you think.
Yes.
Yeah, so I kind of double everything.
Yeah.
And it may not be enough.
Yeah.
But at least it's a start.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a week, so I'm going to think of this as a 2-week thing.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
At least it gets you kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about, honoring your time and your interests. And giving those the same weight or a higher weight than this new thing that came in. And I think I've heard this, and I don't know where it came from, and maybe a lot of people have heard this, but when you say yes to something, that it goes to the bottom of your list, not the top. Because I am a top kind of girl. It's like, oh, you want that? I'm going to put everything aside. I'm going to do that first.
Yeah, why do we do that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not a good practice.
No, I still do that, in fact.
I do that too.
Yeah, and why is that? I don't know. In fact, it's funny because I was doing something the other day and I got contacted by somebody. They needed it. And I think for me, I just wanted to get it off the list, even though it shouldn't have been on the list in the first place. And so then I was like, well, I want to get that done and out of the way. And so it did go to the top of the list. And then and it took me longer to do than I thought. And I was like, what? This should have been, I will get to this when I can. And it should have been weeks down the road.
Right.
Yeah, why do we do that?
I don't know, but maybe we need to repeat that.
Go ahead.
Something new goes to the bottom of your list, not the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one I struggle with.
That's good
till
advice.
This day.
Yeah. Wonder why we do that.
Well, I think I'm like you. I want to just get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of times it's because I also know I shouldn't have done it.
Well, and I think too, and we've talked about this, for me, it's almost like if it's a distraction, that I can easily just kind of put in there and do that distracts me from maybe the other things that maybe I shouldn't have said yes to, or are causing me some stress or are difficult, then it's easier for me to take on that other thing and say yes to that because it can distract me from some other things I'm doing.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to cop to that one too. Okay, saying no gets easier with practice.
Yes, it does.
It does.
Yeah. But it takes a while.
It does. And, I think that you often struggle with the first few and you look back and say, I think I just said maybe. And that was not what I wanted to do.
No.
And you just keep perfecting it until you're comfortable with the words of either, I'm sorry, I just don't have time. That sounds awesome. I just don't have time for that right now.
Yeah.
Or I need to think about that and I'll get back to you. Let me check my schedule.
Yeah. And even saying the timing is just not right. That's even a little bit more, to saying I just don't have time. We're all busy. Everybody has the same amount of hours in the day, and we all are committed. We all have things on our plates. But even saying that, the timing is just not right. And I've had to do that. Just say, it's just the timing. It's just not, maybe even, to me that sounds a little softer, maybe a little more gentle than I don't have time. Because then I feel like, well, I could make time. no, that I need to say no to this, and even saying it's just the timing, there's just, yeah. And it does get easier. It really does.
Right.
And then you feel better because you're like, wow, I know I'd be stressed out right now if I had said yes to that. And then you just don't even think about it anymore. You said what you said, and you're moving forward.
Right.
Yeah, and it feels better.
It does. It feels so good.
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy to just sit there and stew. What did I do? Why did I do that?
Right. That's why that 24-hour rule and considering all of that really makes a difference.
It does. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's talk about saying yes and how saying yes always has a price. Are you willing to pay it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's something you really have to consider when you're making a decision, whether you're saying yes or no. Like, really, how much time, how much effort, what are you giving up to say that yes?
Well, and I think that's why it's important to give yourself that time where you can look at all of it. So let's say, for instance, you've been presented with an opportunity to get exposure for this project that you're going to participate in, whether it's one of these, year-long classes, or it's just a free thing where you're doing a tutorial and then you're going to be featured.
Right.
Is that something that you should consider doing? First of all, you have to look at your overall goals and objectives. Are you in a place right now where if you do that and you're not getting paid, there's revenue not coming in, it's going to take away from the time that you need to be working on another project where you can be? I think considering all of those things for you in that moment is what you need to do. Because if you say yes, just like the bowl, you've put something in now that something else can't, it can't go in there, it can't fit.
Right.
Or you're going to really stretch yourself thin, and then it spills over and affects your family or your children or your friendships. You kind of have to look at that. So
absolutely.
And I know you have a really interesting view on that very topic of.
I do, because as a coach, I have watched people say yes to things for exposure. And I'm doing air quotes, so I want everybody to see me
Air quotes,
exposure. I think that you have to think long and hard. When someone asks you to do something for free for exposure, I think you should automatically default to no. In your brain, you're thinking, okay, my first answer is no. What you say is, thank you so much for thinking of me. I need to think about, see how that fits into my schedule. And you give yourself that 24 hours. But I think the times that you do something for just exposure are small. And I've watched a lot of people do way too much. Whether it's a tutorial, it's a blog hop, it's I'm going to send you all this product, will you work with it? Doing a class, participating in a class for free.
But don't you feel like that person, I mean, I've been there, where that you feel like, first of all, this is an opportunity I could miss out. And I want to show myself in the best light in getting that exposure. So I'm going to go overboard. I'm going to really do so much more than really what I need to be doing.
Yes.
That's in our minds.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know that those of y'all that are listening who've had those opportunities come, or if, you're thinking about that, I still am not 100% sure how I feel about it, because when that opportunity comes, I'm like, do I say yes? This could be an opportunity for me to get some more exposure, maybe to an audience that I've never been in front of or whatever. Right. And I really have to stop and think about it.
You have to weigh it. And, as a coach, my first question to someone is always, what do you want to do? What do you want?
She does say that, by the way. I hear it all the time. What do you want? And then there's times, guys, the honest truth, I say, I don't know. I don't know what I want.
But that's okay, because you can talk through it, and you do know at the end what you want.
Yeah.
And you have to, so let's say that this opportunity comes, that Roben-Marie Smith contacts Sandi Keene and says, hey, I have this thing that I'm doing, and I'd like you to be a part of it, but it's for free. And I'm thinking, Roben-Marie, oh my gosh, that's so exciting. She's a big artist. She has a big audience. She has all of these things that I want. So do I do it? Well, I have to think about what could I do with that time to build my business in a different way.
Right.
Where I get all the benefit. Because when I do something for you, we share the benefit. You get benefit and I get benefit.
Right.
If I do something on my own, I don't share the benefit. It's all coming to me. So I think you have to weigh that. And where are we? So I think there are times that you absolutely should say yes. But I think you should default to no. And think long and hard about it. And talk to someone. I think that's really good advice, to go to a friend. If you have a coach, talk to them.
Yeah.
If you have a mentor, talk to them. Hey, I have this opportunity. Will you talk through it with me? And then you usually pretty quickly determine what your answer should be.
Yeah, good point.
So I default to no on those opportunities. And what do you think?
Well, I used to be the one that said yes all the time because I didn't want to miss out on this opportunity to, like I said, reach a new audience or get my name out there to more people. Now I go with my standby of I will think about it. And generally I'll have a pretty good idea if it's something I think will fit into my schedule. But I've gotten really good now about saying, this is how I want my year to look. I am not going to take on any XYZ in this year. And I've been really good about sticking to my guns. And it's not easy because an opportunity comes up and I'm like, oh, wow. But I still think about it and consider, but I never say yes right out of the gate. And I also like to look at these opportunities, especially if it's one that's not paid. If there isn't, and I guess that's kind of what we're talking about because it's a free thing.
Right.
There are those where you can earn money based on an affiliate. So maybe that class gives you a unique link, and then you use that link, and then you can promote. And I think if you can be savvy with your marketing and you have a list and there's things that you have put in place, you could make some money, right? But if it's not, I try to look at the opportunity in ways that how can I maximize this from my end to get the most out of it, even if I'm not getting paid.
Right.
And if I see that there is a possibility that I can do that, then I will seriously consider it if I can work it into my schedule. But, we're talking to a diverse audience here, Sandi. We've got listeners here who are just starting out. We've got others who have been creating and working in the industry for years. And so everybody's coming at this from a different perspective.
Right.
How do you respond to someone who says, but Sandi, I'm really new. I'm just starting out and no one really knows who I am.
Right.
How do I handle this opportunity?
I think that you talk it through with someone and you figure out, first of all, are you ready for the opportunity? And that means not only are you creatively ready, but are you business ready? So let's say that you get an opportunity to get in front of, Roben-Marie's audience, and tens of thousands of people are going to see you for the first time. Is there somewhere where they can find you?
Exactly.
Do you have a website? Do you have an Instagram account? Do you have those things in place? Because if those building blocks aren't in place, you're kind of wasting your opportunity.
Absolutely.
And why would you do that? Say this. This is a great opportunity. I'm not ready this year. Could you please ask me next year? Because I'm in.
Right.
And you spend that year building and get ready for it.
Yep. That's excellent.
I think that's the time where you have to make sure your foundation is there, or you've wasted the opportunity.
That's right.
So, but if your building blocks are in place and you don't have anything big on, the burners right now, why not?
Right.
Make sure that it benefits you. Yeah. Maybe you have a product or a class that you can market during this and mention it. Right. Sure.
Yeah, and a little bit of advice too. If this is something that you're still unsure of, maybe you're not as familiar with whatever this is. If there's somebody else, like let's say for instance they've done it the year before, and you know someone who is a part of it, reach out and ask.
Yeah.
Say, hey, you know what? I've been invited. That's happened to me. I've had people reach out to me and say, hey, I've been asked to do this, or should I consider this? What are your your feelings on it? What's your experience like?
Yeah. How was it for you?
Yeah. How was it? And they'll give you advice.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine that somebody would just ignore your email but they would probably want to say it was a great experience, or they might say, you know what? I'm not sure. And here's what you might want to consider.
Right.
So reach out to somebody if it's been done before and find out, ask.
Yeah, I think that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good advice on many things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's the yeses.
Mm-hmm.
That's the nos.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as business people and women artists, we just keep practicing and perfecting that decision making and that graceful yet effective yes or no.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure I mentioned it when we were talking about it, is to not feel like you have to give excuses and justify your answer. And we've talked about that. I've been in this situation where you're like, look, you don't have to give a reason. Mm-mm. That is not something you have to do. And so I think that's part of that being graceful, is just being sincere and honest about it, and just saying, thank you so much for thinking of me and the opportunity. You can be super kind and gracious in that, and just let them know, but the timing is just not right. However, I do want to preface that, or I do want to say this. Be careful too in how you respond, because that person might reach out to you again. Mm-hmm. And if it really was something that you don't want to do at all, you might need to respond a little differently the next time.
Right.
But that's okay too. But be very sincere, wish them luck, let them know that, you hope that everything goes well. So you can absolutely do this in a kind and gentle and gracious way, but not have to make excuses on why you're saying no.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah. Good talk.
Yeah, that's an important issue. I think it's one that we all struggle with.
It is. And I do want to state this again. These are Sandi's words to me many times over the years. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. I mean, there's lots of things I think that we could do and do well, but is it really the right time? Right. I mean, here, think about this. It was 2017 where I was like, I want to do a podcast. Okay, that wasn't the right time. Mm-hmm. And it was like, but I can do it. I could do it.
Yeah.
No. It needs to be on the table, and it needs to wait until the timing is right. So there are definitely things that you could absolutely excel at and just do a jam up job, but you need to make sure that it's the right thing for you at the right time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the perfect note to end on.
Mm-hmm. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
I like that. I'm going to write it down.
Tape it on your mirror, folks. All right. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Creatives Get Real.
We sure appreciate all your support.
And you can find me at sandikeene.com and my teaching site, popupartclasses.com.
And you can find me at robenmarie.com and my classes at robenmariestudio.com.